Yeah, Swastika, Akanksha. Good evening.
Good evening, sir.
Shaurya. Okay. We are starting with this topic, periodic table and periodic properties. Okay, or periodic classification of elements, also we call it as. Now, what is periodic table? Can you hear me? All of you, Swastika, Akanksha.
Yes, sir.
Table that is made to arrange the elements.
Yes.
Tabular arrangement of elements.
Absolutely right. We get tabular arrangement. Okay, and
Actually, the previous one actually committed this.
we'll try to revise that. Because what is important is that some parts which I'll try to give you, okay, might be useful here. But I think so. Some of you have joined today itself. One or two. Nah? Who has joined today? What's your name? Varitosh. Okay. Have you signed over here?
Yes.
Second lecture, please sign. Okay. Now, just quick review. Okay, because some parts which we have done, try to rework on those parts. What is periodic table? Before we understand periodic table, okay, basically it's a systematic arrangement of elements, and this was started, I mean, on a large scale by Mendeleev. Right? Mendeleev, what he said, that we are going to classify the elements on the basis of what? The atomic mass. Okay. Atomic mass. I mean, like mass, and then he said, I would require 8 vertical columns called groups. Yes or no?
Yes, sir.
And he studied the reactivity of almost all the elements here with hydrogen and oxygen to form hydrides and oxides. Okay, and he actually took 7 horizontal rows called periods. And he said the fundamental property of an element is what? Atomic mass. Okay, but the problem with this periodic table is what? That this periodic table, okay, had elements which were having dissimilar properties were coming in the same group.
Yes, sir.
Likewise, elements with similar properties were placed in different groups. Isotopes could not be placed in his periodic table. What are isotopes? Oxygen. 3 isotopes are there. 8 and 8. Here 16, 17 and 18. Yes or no, children?
Yes, sir.
So if I'm placing this element in the 6th group, then this should be in 7th and this should be in 8th. But same element cannot be present in 3 different groups. You cannot be present, one person cannot be present at 3 different places. And if it's present in 3 different places, means what? He's having different properties. But same element cannot have different properties. I mean, basic nature of an element will not change. So this is definitely not valid point. I mean, isotopes could not be placed. Secondly, he, for example, he found that these elements which were actually placed in the increasing order of their atomic mass, where some elements were coming with higher atomic mass were placed before those having lower atomic mass. Right? Because if you're saying that elements have to come, in the increasing order of their atomic mass, so they have to come in that same increasing order. So this particular periodic table failed. So another man came forward. Who was there? Okay, Mosley. What Mosley? Russian chemist, again, his counterpart. Mosley and Mendeleev both were from Russia. Here, Mosley, what he said, Mr. Mendeleev, with due respect to you, here, your periodic table is actually having so many loopholes. It is, should I tell you with due respect, what is the reason? The reason is that you classified the elements on the basis of atomic mass. It should not have been atomic mass. It is atomic number. Why some elements with dissimilar properties are placed in the same group? Atomic mass is the main point when you classify. Why elements with similar properties were placed in different groups? Again, atomic mass. Why isotopes could not be placed? Because atomic mass. They have having different atomic masses. Had it been atomic number, all the disadvantages would have become what advantages. So mostly he said, "You are my Mahaguru. Maybe I've learned a mistake from your mistakes. Here, you are a stepping stone for my actually periodic table. So always you will be remembered, okay, for me, because through your mistake, I came to know that this particular periodic table which I'm going to make and show to the world that yes, look, this is the periodic table which is based on what? Atomic number. Atomic number is a fundamental property, and therefore he came out with the modern periodic table, and therefore he came out with the modern periodic law, which says that the physical and the chemical properties of the elements are periodic functions of their atomic numbers and not atomic mass. Means when you arrange the elements in the increasing order of their atomic numbers, okay, the properties repeat or recur at regular intervals. They are bound to recur. Why? Because after some time, the electronic configurations will reappear. Similar kind of electronic configuration. And as a result, if the electronic configurations are same, or the outer electronic structure is same, the properties have to repeat. Elements will have to repeat the properties. You will find the repetition, okay, spontaneously. So he came out with a wide periodic table, and he said, Mr. Mandeli, you had used 8 vertical columns. I would like to add 10 more vertical columns to it, and I'm going to have 18 vertical columns. And your periods, which we are actually use 7 in the periodic table, same periods I will use. And he made a wide periodic table. So let's work on that periodic table. I will show you, okay, some important points in this periodic table. Of course, it is also having loopholes, but the periodic table has got uncommon good points, and in front of those uncommon good points, okay, those bad points are having very much lighter. So his periodic table till today, nobody is able to challenge. So let us work on this periodic table. What to do? Have you drawn the periodic table earlier?
Yes, yes.
पूरा periodic table बना है?
Yes,
कहाँ बना है?
No.
कभी बना? Last year.
Last.
Last to last class. So let us work on that periodic table. Here, I will draw the periodic table. Okay, you also again have to draw. Why? Because mostly he spent, for example, 5 to 7 years maybe, clear, and we have to spend only 20 minutes on this periodic table. So let us work on that here. And since we have to be with the, for example, with other batches, so we'll have to rework on this. And some extra points definitely I will give you. Here I am drawing the modern periodic table. Yeah, Bastika, take out your, scale, pencil, all of you. The scale and pencil, you have to draw the periodic table. Have you drawn last time? Not last time. No? Before that, you draw. Where? ये कौन सा periodic table है? हाँ? Modern periodic table है कि mostly Mendeleev है? Modern. Please redraw, children. You have to redraw those, for example, 118 elements. Because many questions are asked on this topic. Periodic table, you have to use scale and pencil, children. Scale. Why divide physics book ले लो उसको divide pages physics next 50 pages 100 pages 300 pages one book share of physics chemistry clear only but अभी chemistry book or physics book or maths or bio book here draw this with the scale and pencil जब periodic table में तुम स्माइल कर रहे हो बहुत ही अच्छा स्वस्थ all of
Yes,
you
sir.
keep your video on
Sir, my video is on.
Yes, sir.
now it is on in between swastika
Sir, my video is on.
table yeah
There are 18 columns, right?
yes 18 columns of 1 centimeter or approximately less than 1 centimeter you can draw. Who's that? कौन नहीं बना रहे हैं? सर चेक नहीं बना रहे हो कौन नहीं बना रहे?
सर ये सर गलत बन रहा है।
गलत बन किसका?
गलत इंसान
अरे तुमने बोला मेरे उन्होंने बना लिया है।
मैंने नहीं बोला सर गलत इंसान बनेगा तो गलती करेगा।
किसने पूछा था आपको गलत? Nobody asked.
ट्राई करो ट्राई
सर ने बिना स्केल पे ड्रॉ किया।
बिना स्केल के तो रॉन्ग हो जाएगा ना फिर यू टू ड्रॉ द स्केल now let us come to periodic table बना लिया है इसलिए we don't want periodic table. Some of you said ना periodic table you have paid but
सर ऐसा नहीं बनाया था।
क्या बना है?
नॉर्मल ऐसा बनाया था।
नहीं
हाँ सर ऐसे
periodic table पूरा है।
सर ये ड्रॉ करने को नहीं आता नहीं सर।
ड्रॉ नहीं लेकिन एलिमेंट्स का काम या सबसे इम्पोर्टेंट एलिमेंट्स को दिया है। ओके there is nothing to worry. Anyway I'll give you some time. क्या नाम है आपका? What's the name? Paritosh. Which school? नेहल नेहल कौन से स्कूल में आप? इश्मेल इसमें कौन से स्कूल में रायन
सर डबल ईटी
डबल ईटी है क्या? रायन
प्रतीक
प्रतीक डबल ई की आई हर्षदा हर्षिता राइट हर्षिता ठीक है स्कूल रायन व्हाट्स योर नेम नील एन डबल ई अच्छा Vishita. Yeah, carry on with your periodic table. In the meantime, I'm just getting accustomed. Rasim. R-A-S-I-M. Rigid. S-R-E-E-K. Double E-J-I. Ayush. Ayush. Then double A क्या? Harshit. H-A-R-S. Harshit. Nikhil. Nikhil. What's your name, Jay? Huh? N-A-Y-Y-E-R. A-H Naira. Okay. Neil.
N-double-E-V.
Neil, acha. Neil.
Ryan Thakur.
Ryan Thakur. And Ushagar.
Sakil.
K-U. Yes. H-E-R-A na?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Par.
Ryan Thakur. Varun. Yes. Akanksha, have you drawn? Swastika.
Yes,
Very good. And Swastika, have you drawn? Your periodic table बन गया आपका? Swastika, can you hear me? Swastika. Oh, Swastika is not able to give response. No problem. Children, let us start with this periodic table and I'll give you some time. कि आप पहले लिखेंगे. Okay, now children, let us work on this periodic table. Because this will, I'll wait. Swastika, have you drawn?
Yes, sir.
Periodic table, they can ask the questions pertaining to periodic table.
सर अगर ये 10-10 बार बना दिया तो फिर रट जाएगा कि
रट जाएगा, क्यों नहीं?
कहाँ कौन सी जगह पर है?
हमारे स्कूल में अलग ही तरीका पता है
क्या?
बनाने का पहली
हमारे सर मेरे को पूरा पता है हमारे लिए ना करो रब से फरियाद बेटा मांगे कार स्कूटर बाप और पैदल आलू गाजर इन तेला काशी गए संत प्रभु
हाँ।
और एक ही कौन सा नाना पाटेकर नाना राष्ट्रवादी स्वाभिमान
हाँ
और
हाँ राइट वो सब तुम लोग
एलिमेंट में को पूरे याद 36
हाँ
कुछ एलिमेंट्स ही याद है ऐसा
1 to 20 तुम लोगों को याद है
36
हाँ सर वो
36 तक ओके गुड 36 तक याद है बस ठीक है here we are trying remembering all the elements okay in net में दिया है ये सब नाम इसका जो लिस्ट है
मैंने YouTube पे देखा
YouTube पे
और पीरियोडिक टेबल इजीली
that is a song for periodic table type करके song
Sir, can you
song नहीं I don't actually what I've seen that video but actually what you can remember through the but ये अपना automatically like I have drawn completely ठीक है now children आकांक्षा done
सर वन
स्वस्तिक done
Yes, sir.
अगर
सर मैंने उसका ट्रांजिशन एलिमेंट्स को भी बनाया था मैं भूल गया
science teachers are yes वो actually बहुत पुराना सब sentence बना के रखते हैं but then finally you forget most of the time because after writing the symbol then only you remember so basically we have made it so we get to actually remember through the now you can remember through groups also पूरा groups के हिसाब से करते हैं so let us understand the salient features of this periodic table पहले बना लो आराम से 10 minutes more I can give you 25 the lecture 20 minute का explanation रहेगा on this particular periodic table so that you get accustomed again at some points which you are not aware you will get the idea. बोलो ठीक है on this count to okay सबका
So what is after PM? The transition element.
ये वाला
Is after PM.
SN
SM.
Severian Catolenia okay
सर रिमोट से होगा।
रिमोट किधर?
ये रहा इधर है। ओके तो बात
ऐसा पेशेंट है। सर
ओके
ओके दबा देखा है।
किधर ओके?
सर एकदम बीचों बीच
यहाँ पे
ज्योमेट्रिक सेंटर
ओके
सेंटर पे आपको
राइट थैंक यू
सर ऐसे हो
सर व्हाट इज आफ्टर E8 एंटी साइड
ये वाला HL RF फिर PA प्रोटैक्टिन यूरेनियम नेपच्यूनियम LP इसमें हो गया आपका
यस
सर इसको लाइक दिस
नाम बताना
ओके लिखा सबने
सर चलो सर एक
दायरा आपका हो गया आराम से दायरा ना राइट ना प्रोनाउंसिएशन देन दायरा
राइका सुना प्लेयर क्या
दायरा राइट
देखो दायरा की डिग्री बोल रहे हैं
yeah listen to it carefully let us come to the next part have you finished all of you अभी तक बनाए हैं आप बनाइए हाँ सबको हेल्प करूँगा लास्ट लिखा आपने अर्शित लिखा आयुष अर्शित किधर है हो गया रस्यम लिखा okay shall we start then
yes sir
Akanksha Swastika done
Yes, sir.
okay now let us understand this salient features of this modern periodic table okay now listen to it carefully so no this periodic table consists of 18 vertical columns 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 8 9 10 11 12 13 14 15 16 17 18 right 18 vertical columns are called as what groups okay ये groups है and then there are 7 horizontal rows required for this periodic table that is this one here first period consists of how many elements 2 elements this is shortest period basically consisting of hydrogen and helium lithium to neon we are having 8 elements in the second period because second shell can accommodate how many electrons 8 third shell can accommodate 18 but we are having only 8 elements okay why because third shell maximum we are having 8 elements so maximum we can accommodate how many 8 electrons that's why in the third period also we have 8 elements only
सर
not
आपने
18
थर्ड ग्रुप में लालू क्यों लिखा है
किधर
सर
हाँ लालू क्या है मालूम है वो भी आएगा लालू मीन्स बेसिकली इट इज लैंथनम टू लुटेशियम
अच्छा
ठीक है ना now what is this lalu that is nothing but what lanthanum to lutetium now these elements remember one thing according to Mosley I will just come to that let me see this the third period also consists of 8 elements fourth period consisting of 18 elements only which is the long this is actually short period this is a long period 18 fourth and fifth sixth and seventh are nothing but what longest period with 32 elements only Mosley ने क्या सोचा यहाँ पे lanthanum to lutetium they have got a close resemblance in their properties so why not give a separate place at the bottom of the periodic table because if I give these elements over here the placement तो periodic table कैसे लगेगा देखो periodic table आपको ऐसा दिखेगा अगर suppose periodic table अगर lanthanum आपने ऐसा रख दिया है ओके तो lanthanum को suppose ये lanthanides और actinides को यहाँ पे place किया तो इन लोगों को shift करना पड़ेगा so when you actually shift then periodic table ऐसा दिखेगा ना चाबी जैसा दिखेगा
सर ये बोर्ड लग रहा है
नहीं ये चाबी का जो लॉक सिस्टम है वैसा दिख रहा है ना ठीक है और दूसरे बात क्या होगा ये जो lanthanum if it comes over here तो ये हैफनियम उधर चला जाएगा. हैफनियम के नीचे जो एलिमेंट है रुथोपोडियम, properties will not match over because ये element will come over here somewhere. And this periodic table will look like amoeba. ठीक है? What बात? amoeba हो गया. ये amoeba period, so definitely it will be a disorganized kind of study. And we are going to make it organized kind of study. उसको disorganization हो जाए. So what we do, we try to keep at the bottom of the periodic table. Why? Because there is a close resemblance between ruthopodium and hafnium, or maybe for example dubnium or tantalum. ठीक है ना? Now you will say, why in the group they have similar properties? Before that, these elements which are 14 elements, okay, which are called lanthanides because they follow lanthanum. ठीक है? These elements cerium से लेके lutetium, likewise thorium से लेके for example lawrencium तक, these elements are called as actinides. ठीक है? Okay, now what is important over here? Now these elements how they are placed, अगर इधर place भी करेंगे तो हम लोग को placement कैसे करना है? They are like this way. देखो ऐसा periodic table कैसे है? Vertical है ना? Or you can consider this way कि periodic table आप बिछा दो, ठीक है? On the plate this like a bench और ये twin tower, lanthanide tower, actinide tower, ठीक है? But हम लोग को दिखाने के टाइम हम लोग क्या करते हैं? इसको placement नीचे show करते हैं. Elements are placed over here only. Third B group and sixth period lanthanides. Third B group and seventh period actinides. कोई पूछेगा सर placement क्या है ये दोनों group of elements का? It is third B, group same है, okay, but period उन लोगों का sixth and seventh. Lanthanides are placed in sixth period and actinides are placed in seventh period. Okay, remember. Okay. At the same time, the first A group elements are called as alkali metals. Why? Because these elements they react with water and form alkaline solution. They are very quick elements. They are quickies. हम लोग बोलते हैं. Sodium cannot actually cannot be kept in the atmosphere. Why? Because it not only reacts with oxygen but also not only react with moisture but also oxygen and catches fire. Okay, so these elements are highly reactive. Okay, and they are called as alkali metals. Why they are called as alkaline earth metals? Second, a question in your ICSE exam, give 2 examples of alkaline earth metals. But before that, what is the meaning of alkaline earth metals? Now, these elements have got a strong affinity for oxygen. क्योंकि इन लोग का वैलेंसी 2 है, वो ऑक्सीजन का भी वैलेंसी 2 है. So what happens? बेरिलियम क्या करता है? ऑक्सीजन से कंबाइन करके बेरिलियम ऑक्साइड फॉर्म करता है. Yeah, for example, magnesium combines with oxygen, and whenever any element combines with oxygen, it's called earth material. Because oxygen is present to an extent of 50% of mass in the earth crust. Most abundant element in the earth crust in terms of mass, oxygen. उसके बाद सिलिकॉन का नंबर आता है 26%. उसके बाद अपना ये आता है क्या बोलते हैं एल्यूमिनियम 7%, 7%. ठीक है? तो now silicon, therefore just like silicon combines with oxygen, we can call it as silica, sand, sandstone. तो वो भी एक earth material. तो जो भी element oxygen से combine करता है, we call it as earth. But these earthy materials, what they do, they combine with what? Water. I mean, they always remain in the form of oxides or sulfides, and they react with water and make what the solution? Alkaline. Magnesium hydroxide क्या है? Alkaline solution. That's why alkaline earth metals. 17 group elements are called as halogens because they form salts. Halo means salts, gens means producing, so they are salt forming substances. इन लोगों का खास बात क्या है कि they react with sodium, potassium and they form salts. Potassium chloride, sodium chloride. जो rock salt हम लोग खा रहे हैं, वो क्या है? Sodium, which is nothing but a combination of chlorine and sodium. Yes or no? The extreme right hand side elements are nothing but what? Halogens, which are actually what called as zero group elements. In loga, that is, they don't have capacity to combine, so their valency is 0.
Sir, they do not react.
Yes, valency is 0 means they don't react as such under ordinary condition. The scientists have found out that under extreme condition, krypton has undergone a reaction. Xenon has undergone a reaction at high temperature. Okay? Xenon oxychloride form 1. Xenon hexafluoride form 1. But higher condition. अभी मालूम पड़ रहा है. But they are under room condition. They are inert gases. Okay? Now
They are stable.
noble gas, yes, stable. Now, likewise, for example, you will say, sir, why sodium is placed in the third period and the first group? Now, this is based on the atomic number. Now, atomic number से हम लोग क्या लिख सकते हैं? Electronic configuration. Sodium का electronic configuration क्या होगा children? 2,8,1. Now, the number of shells are 3. So, number of shells corresponds to period number. यानी जितने shells है वो period number उतना match करेगा. Likewise, one electron in the valence shell means group 1. Okay, that means the placement of an element is related with what? Its electronic configuration. Electronic configuration is related with atomic number. So atomic number is a fundamental property. Why? Because on the basis of electronic configuration, we can decide the physical properties as well as chemical properties. Physical and chemical means what? Chemistry of an element. Because physical से हम लोग मालूम पड़ेगा क्या bonding form कर सकते हैं element. Bonding से हम लोग को hardness मिलेगा, density मिलेगा, melting point मिलेगा, boiling point मिलेगा. और उसका electronic configuration से वो ionic bond form करेगा, covalent bond form करेगा. ठीक है? At the same time, whether it will actually what? For example, chemical properties, whether it will be reactive or non-reactive, whether it will be metal or non-metal, we can come to know from this electronic configuration. So chemistry depends upon all the things. Likewise, you say, sir, but there is a demarcation. Some are you have written A, some have you have written B. What are A group elements? Now, children, here, as we have 4 categories of students, likewise, we are having 4 categories of elements over here on the basis of their electronic structure. 4 categories of students, कैसे है?
Sir, the Roman numbers are the representation.
A group elements means last shell.
That was old, right?
Old. This is international.
Modern
Union.
is 1, 2, 3. Right?
Yes. International Union has given. Now, before that, A group elements means what? Normal elements. It means last shell incomplete liquid. You know, 1A, 2A, 3A, 4A, 5A, 6A, 7A. They are all incomplete. One shell incomplete. 0 shell incomplete liquid, inert gases. Last 2 shells incomplete liquid, ये 40 cell liquid. अलीबाबा 40 स्टोर ये देखो ये 40 एलिमेंट का केमिस्ट्री एक ही साथ चलेगा ठीक है और ये 28 एलिमेंट्स का केमिस्ट्री they are actually what last 3 shells incomplete. So there are 4 categories of students coming out of the examination hall. One says, sir, I have completed the paper. He's stable.
सर आप ऐसा बता सकते हो कि नंबर वाइज में एटॉमिक नंबर्स कैसे आ रहे हैं सर?
Now, देखो one periodic table start with the वहां से left hand side से end to the यहाँ पे. That means we open one shell and when we close over here that shell. Then we in the next period we open a new shell. देखो 2,1, 2,2, 2,3, 2,4, 2,5, 2,6, 2,7, 2,8. With 281 new shell. Now since the number of electrons are actually what here it is how much 1 here 2,1 here 281 2881 2881 ठीक है ना so likewise they have same number of electrons in the outermost shell so in the group the valencies are same that's why the properties are also similar okay but in the period the properties are different because the number of electrons in the outermost shells are different therefore there is a gradation in the properties in a period में elements अगर अलग period same है but groups अलग है तो properties अलग होंगे clear here these elements are having last 2 shells incompletely filled here these 2 elements are having last 3 shells incompletely filled okay yes sir. So likewise for example like one student a set of students says sir I have completed my paper examination second stable last sir एक ही point answer I remained so I could not complete here one set of students will say sir I have last 2 shells in last 2 answers incomplete and last so look chemistry अलग अलग now what was happening earlier when there were 7 elements we could study the properties individually very easily but 112 elements over here individually it becomes difficult so what to do sir chemistry of inert gases so if you study argon you can get the properties of the whole group it's like saying this way if you study the one of the member in your family okay who's having properties milta julta with all the other members okay I can say yes I have studied the whole family of yours why because वो जो member है उनका property सबसे मिलता जुलता है उनका eating habits उनका features उनका way of walking way of talking etc we can come to know from one member in that group only
So 118 उसके साथ book halogens में नहीं आएगा ना after halogens
कौन सा halogens में आएगा ना tennis sign
उसके बाद
वो गणेश सॉन्ग वो आएगा inert gases
कैसे इसमें तो नहीं
किधर
मैं
आया ना नया बुक में आता है वो गणेश सॉन्ग ठीक है okay now so likewise for example okay these are the for example set of elements so what we can do you say sir how it is easier to actually study from the periodic table if I say sir I am studying about transition elements what is the commonness in transition elements last 2 shells incomplete तो इन लोगों का chemistry similar होगा okay last 3 shells incompletely filled इन लोगों का chemistry similar होगा that means instead of studying individually mostly said why don't you study in a group Remember. Okay, what is the basis of study? Sir, सब में last 3 shells incomplete.
सर ये बोल रहे ग्रुप स्टडी इज बेटर
Definitely. क्योंकि अभी कॉम्पिटिटिव एग्जाम में ग्रुप स्टडी करेंगे तो यू कैन what is it concern your for example the questions which are having doubts so your peer or let us say your colleague or your friend can only solve the doubts sometimes. When some of you because different minds they work in different directions. So group study will be much better.
सर अभी आपने ऐसा बोल दिया अभी सब लोग मम्मी को बोलेंगे
मम्मी को बोलेंगे ग्रुप स्टडी करना
नहीं because study means उधर कोर स्टडी करना है ऐसा नहीं कि उधर अपना गप्पा
स्टडी के अलावा सब होगा
नहीं but try because हम लोग पहले this again the things are coming back that group study people are liking why because single में क्या हो रहा है you get stressed out sometimes I mean you get out of confidence I mean you lose confidence sometimes okay so you tend to go with your friends and study for some time so it will I'm not saying right study but what is important कि थोड़ा सा दोपहर में जाके बैठ सकते हो जाके discuss कर सकते हो that I mean of course everybody can understand at this level of 10th standard ठीक है and after this pandemic people would like to interact in terms of study करके group में क्या होगा कुछ doubts clear कर सकते हो that is much easier okay did you follow this point now let us come to the questions which are there in this particular ICSE book review exercise देखो UT volume में review exercise ठीक है UT volume देखो UT volume में पहले देखो last one review exercise question number 1 देखो review exercise देखा पेज नंबर कौन सा अर्चिता ने बहुत अच्छा क्वेश्चन
ये चैप्टर में बोलिए
पेज नंबर 15 review exercise first question all of you first question what is the first question is a rapid fire question basically wait question number 1 कर सकते हैं right question number 2 कर सकते हैं
सर क्वेश्चन नंबर 1 का
now with respect to this periodic table का जो features है ठीक है
So hydrogen can act as both metals and non-metals.
but actually it is a metal
But
because
it
it
can
shows
act as
proper
non-metal.
and here there is no fixed position of hydrogen and helium उसका भी position debatable है means but we are still keeping hydrogen and helium because if this is based on electronic structure इसको इधर आना चाहिए और hydrogen because it is non-metal it should be actually with the halogens
why they are
नहीं ऑस्ट्रेलिया ने जो किया था वैसे ही हम लोग ने रखा है अगर अभी फॉरेन बुक्स में देखेंगे तो आपको हाइड्रोजन यहाँ पे ये हेडलेस पीरियोडिक टेबल होते हैं ये दोनों निकाल दिए और इन लोगों को कहाँ रखा है बीच में रख दिए ये नए बुक में अगर देखेंगे ना फॉरेन बुक्स में आपको ऐसा दिखे और इधर नहीं तो डॉटेड मार्क्स किए डॉटेड मार्क्स में पोजीशंस आर नॉट फिक्स्ड चलो फर्स्ट क्वेश्चन इसमें पढ़ो
Sodium
नहीं क्वेश्चन पढ़ो
name 3 elements that have a single electron in their outermost shell.
अर्षिता बोलिए आंसर एक क्वेश्चन पढ़ेगा दूसरा आंसर अर्षिता बोलिए क्या आंसर नेम 3 एलिमेंट्स इधर देखिए पीरियोडिक टेबल चिल्ड्रन ये कलर्ड कॉपी आपको लेके रखना है या स्टिक ऑन द कार्डबोर्ड एंड व्हेन यू आर wherever you are studying स्टडी टेबल पे वहां पे एक्सैक्टली रख लो अब पीरियोडिक टेबल देख के आपको आंसर देना
सर बुक
इनिशियली
सर बुक के पीछे है दो
फिर भी उसको फिर टेक आउट उसको पढ़ेगा नहीं ना हाँ चलो कुशग्रह सेकंड क्वेश्चन फर्स्ट आंसर क्या दिया आपने अर्षिता सोडियम लिथियम एंड पोटेशियम राइट ना हाइड्रोजन मत देना इसमें क्योंकि हाइड्रोजन इज नॉट एन अल्कली मेटल because it is a metal but not showing the properties exactly is a vigorous property like other Kushagra second
so 2 elements that have 2 electrons in the outermost shell
2 elements having 2 electrons in the valence shell कौन सा हो सकता है magnesium calcium beryllium second group means second 2 valence electrons means second group okay remember come on then बोलिए 3 elements चलो बोलो 3 elements will fill yes very good question number 10 पे जाइए चलो question number 10 पे 10 3 minutes are there question number 10 11 12 all of you try to do it and write down in the book itself. Akanksha, question number 10, 11, 12 of UT volume. Swastika would like to give the answer, or Akanksha, anyone can give the answer. Akanksha, you want to give, or Swastika will give the answer for question number 10. Review exercise. UT volume, the जो volume है, उसमें देखिए, बिला आपको.
Question number 10 on page 15.
Question number 10, yes. Review exercise. Page number 15. Page number 15, child. Page number 15 पे जाइए आप.
Yes, sir.
Volume open कीजिए और question number 10 देखिए. And the question is arrange the elements, ना?
Yes.
हाँ, वही आपको बोलना है. And 11th कौन सा है children? 11th वाला वो भी arrange कर सकते हैं. और 12th हाँ बस वो भी लिख सकते हैं. Okay, children, 10, 11 and 12, all of you. चलो 10 क्या आंसर है? Then Swastika read out the question and Akanksha will give the answer.
10th
Akanksha, are you ready?
is
बोलिए.
of period 2 in ascending order of atomic numbers.
What is the answer, Akanksha?
So the answer is lithium, beryllium, boron, carbon, nitrogen, oxygen, protein and neon.
Excellent. सुंदर तरीके से आपने बोला. Very good. Next one. Ishmael, बोलिए. Next one.
Sodium, magnesium, aluminum, silicon, phosphorus.
Sodium. नहीं. Question read. Well, question.
Arrange the elements of period 3 in ascending order of atomic
Period
numbers.
3 in the ascending order. ये period 3 है. Right ना?
Yes, sir.
चलो बोलो.
Sodium, magnesium, aluminum, silicon, phosphorus,
Yes.
sulfur,
Very
argon,
good. Nina McGill sips tea. Sorry, sips chlorine and not tea. ये एक statement है. Nina McGill करके जो lady है, she sips not tea but chlorine. So ऐसा करके sips यानी SIPS. और McGill यानी ऐसा surname. Okay, तो ऐसा statement आप याद रखें. Next one. Kusha gonna read the question.
Yes, sir.
And Swastika check this answer out.
If an element X is atomic number 16, to which period and group of the periodic
Question number?
The 12.
12. Question number 12, children. Who would like to give? Last bench. Asim.
Sir, can I answer 12th one?
You can answer. Chalo, bolo. 12th one you want to answer. Kushagra, read the question.
Yes, sir.
Swastika wants to give
If
an
an
answer.
element X is atomic number 16, to which period and group of the periodic table
If an element is having atomic number 16, which element is there atomic number 16? Sulfur. Sulfur का क्या electronic X का क्या electronic configuration? 2,8,6. Swastika, tell me 2,8,6. So what is the balance here? What is the next question given over there?
Which period?
Which period? Definitely it is belong to the third period. Okay, and 16th group या 6th day group लिख सकते हैं आप. दोनों लिख सकते हैं because it's not deleted as such. तो periodic table में भी दिया है. Okay, so we'll stop over here. Homework will be to learn the salient features and whatever questions are there. Let me give you the homework. Question number 1 हो गया. 2, 3, 2, 3. ठीक है. Then 13, 14, or फिर 23rd straight away. 2, 3, 14, 13, 14 and 23 का first fill in the blanks. First पूरा blank. आपने mark किया? Book नहीं है. ठीक है? So you just try it out. Okay, and next time we discuss. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir.
ये मेरे को करना है। ये माइक बंद कर दो। भाई माइक बंद कर दे, एक बात बता, मैं हूँ अर्शी का एक नंबर
भाई पूरी बहुत